Welcome to the heart of Silicon Valley. My name is Jenny Lynn, and I'm here with my co-host, Vilma.
Vilma.
And we are here today to interview teacher extraordinaire, Chelsea Delaney. One of our highlights of this program is to talk to people with passion, true passion. And Chelsea has true passion for her teaching profession. So we're here today to discuss her efforts to get her kids to achieve a balance in the school day, and also her own personal journey in achieving life-work balance in her own life. So thank you for joining us, Chelsea.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, ladies.
Okay, great. So what makes Chelsea Chelsea with all that introduction? And also at the same time, I feel like reading your blog, and you're a very beautiful, carefree, spirited lady. That's beautiful. So all that put together, and being able to achieve that balance with the children that you do teach, how do you do that?
Well, that's been a combination of a couple of different things. Mm-hmm. I mean, I spent a very long time subscribing to the fact that teachers were supposed to be a certain way. And I think many people in education kind of have gone through the same journey. And when you do that, whenever you're playing a role, there are certain things that get ignored. And I just kind of hit a point 2 or 3 years ago when I realized there has to be more to me than the teacher that's been expected. And as I started to kind of go on some of my own personal journeys, I was able to let out that inner honesty. And then that was able to trickle down into the classroom, and to watch students be able to feel like they have a partner in that, accelerated things even from there.
Yeah, I think it's so important to give students that sense of agency, that they have power in their lives to, make choices and make good choices for themselves. So what are some things that you do in the classroom to promote that?
So this is the first year that I've actually been teaching mindfulness practice, and that's something that's, there's the positive and the negative. The positive is that it's amazing, and that all the research backs that up, although it can also become kind of a buzzword. But I've started kind of dipping my toes in the waters this year, and to watch students, especially our Silicon Valley students, start to actually slow down and feel like they are present in this moment is really quite amazing, because they've also learned a lot of the parroting of roles and parroting of expectations. And, you can see them look at you when you first start, giving them some of that, like you said, agency and permission, and they kind of think it's a trap at first. Think, okay, you're asking me to be honest, but I don't quite believe that you really want me to be honest. But then as you see them kind of slowly grow to trust you with that, it's really an amazing thing. So the mindfulness has been really fantastic. And one of my biggest surprises is the boys in my classes that I really expected to go,
wow.
Oh no, yeah, we're not gonna be meditating. This does not work. Some of my most enthusiastic meditators are my boys that are just super high energy. And as a culture, we don't really give young men a chance to slow down, a chance to have more than kind of a
free.
Exactly.
Get that freedom, right?
Yeah, and have more than just a stereotypical side to them.
What's the age bracket of the kids that you do teach?
So I have 8th grade students who are typically between 13 and 14 the year that I have them. And then this year, one of my creative writing classes, which is an elective, are 6th graders. And those guys are fun. They're much smaller than I'm used to.
They speak their mind, like you.
And they are so enthusiastic. It's before kind of the coolness of adolescence has set in. So they have been a lot of fun. I haven't done much, in my career with 6th graders, but they've been a lot of fun.
Going back to the movement, the conscious movement, is it kind of like the Tai Chi that you do teach? Yeah,
there's some principles of that. About a year ago, I was lucky to come across, what's called conscious movement or conscious dance. And there's a lot of different schools of that. And I'm dancing at a place called Open Floor in Mountain View on Monday nights. And it's really amazing, kind of just the body consciousness and how much wisdom your body holds. And when you start to bring some awareness instead of always being in 10 different places at once in your head, it's pretty it's pretty spectacular. So yeah, there's definitely some of that sensibility about it. Yeah, bringing that balance.
Do you incorporate meditation or meditative practices on a daily basis, or how does that get incorporated into your curriculum and in your teaching?
So as as all things, when you first start teaching them, you kind of learn as you go. And so I started kind of with once a week and putting it in there at the end of class, thinking, okay, if this goes terribly wrong, then it's not going to matter. And, the end of class works for some students. And then I started to move it around a little bit. And what I noticed is, if we do it before a time when the stress really tends to kick in, like right before we start writing in class, we're working on an essay together. I used to have very reliably 3 times the usual number of students would be trying to leave to go sign out and use the restroom during that time. And I noticed the first time we did kind of a moment of mindfulness, people were just chill. They were there. They're asking questions. There wasn't that same sense of anxiety. And, it just, again, it was one of those big, big click.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah.
You do also empower women in such a way, right? Do you work with women as well? You do read books and you write poetry as well.
Yeah, I've been writing poetry for quite a while, and it's interesting because that's been one of those things where I didn't let myself really love it as much as I truly did for a long time, because I thought, well, people aren't really going to buy a book of poetry. Who buys poetry? Well, it's not fiction. Fiction's important. Nonfiction's important. And then again, 2 or 3 years ago, I hit a certain point. I said, but that's your voice. And if that's your voice, why would you cut off any part of that? And so that's really allowed me to jump back in and kind of redouble my efforts, and my performance style has changed, and it's been a really neat journey.
How many poems have you written? Like,
it really depends. I mean, this year, I think there's been a little bit of a slowdown, but last year was really voluminous. I mean, I was writing like a crazy person. It was, morning, noon, and night. I had a book or a piece of paper somewhere. Yeah.
And is there any way that, like us, if we wanted to read any of your poetry, where can we find it?
See, I don't have an official place. I do need to put some of that on the blog. You're right. Yeah.
Could you give us a little bit of a spiel on your poetry?
You mean?
That would be nice, huh?
Right. Would you like to recite maybe excerpt of something you...
excerpt, okay.
Yeah.
Goodness.
That would be anything.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know we're putting you on the spot here.
No, it's okay. I don't usually do it seated, but I will, yeah.
Because I know you're a performance artist, and you have this...
I'm a hand talker.
Right,
Jenny knows I'm a hand talker.
Yeah. We love that. Go ahead. Feel free.
So I wrote a piece about a year ago, right after one of the, it's hard to say latest school shootings, but unfortunately now you have to say latest school shootings. And I was really thinking about, well, what is my role as a teacher in helping to either A, promote this kind of violence that happens, or B, hold this kind of violence back. And it was right about the time that we had our yearly Run, Hide, and Defend training, which is the training that teachers have to have every year now in terms of...
That's been implemented, guys.
Yeah, exactly. And so the piece that I wrote kind of coalesced after all of those things came together.
Okay.
I left them on the floor. It's all I was trained for in Run, Hide, Defend. If an active shooter comes on campus, don't suspend your normal judgment, but ask yourself where the shots come from. Can you get away? The real question is, can I stay and not resent the brokenness I can't heal? If not, then we defend. Columbine locks from the inside and know what you would use to improvise a weapon. Like every day isn't guessing at what makes connection. I'm afraid the shooter would see our reflections, but again, I've hid them well on the floor. It's all that I was trained for.
Wow, it's very beautiful.
Oh, thank
so
you.
I could see,
Thank
you know, the emotions on the face, even the hair flows with you, the whole body, the hand. It's beautiful, very beautiful.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
And it's such a also timely talking about school shootings.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's an unfortunate part of society now that we have children exposed to that type of violence, and they come
Exactly.
home talking about that. You know, it's being talked about in the classroom and on the news.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, for your kids that you work with, what is something that we can do to de-stress situations when they come, into such when they encounter violence.
Right after something like that happens.
Yeah.
You talk to them about
Oh
it?
yeah, we have lots of conversations, and again, I think the best thing that we can do for them is to continue to promote a sense of balance.
Right.
That school is one part of your life, and we don't always do that. Again, especially in Silicon Valley, since I've been here for the last 4 years, it's blown up as kind of all of your life. If they realize that there's more than one part of your life, then they can get some perspective, sit back and go, okay, I'm not unsafe everywhere. There's a place where some things happen in different people's lives, but it's not everything. So I think, the more we can continue to promote and help students have balance and realistic kind of expectations and voice for themselves, the more they're going to be able to have some resilience and not just go into a total state of meltdown when that happens.
So you give them a piece of happy a lot.
Hopefully, yeah. And happiness is not always seen as a viable goal or viable interest. It's not something that can necessarily make money, but it's part of life and a life well lived. So I don't know that we spend enough time on it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like the students I encounter are very stressed living in Silicon Valley, and part of it is that pressure to succeed and maybe even live up to expectations.
Yeah, you talked about that earlier. Yeah.
Right. So it's great to have you, an educator in the classroom, encountering that firsthand and doing something active to, give them the other side, right? Give them the perspective.
To have a choice, because again, unless somebody's giving you a choice, you can't actually say that you have chosen something. I tell all my students, my valedictorians, my A+ perfectionists, I say, if this is your choice because you've looked at all of your options, then great, I will support you to, bust through the roof and take over the world, be the next president.
That's really good, because you really empower them to think and feel, and based off that, they can make the decisions.
Yeah, and then if it's not your choice, then you can realize, okay, there are actual options, and I won't be disowned by my family and my community. If I had, everybody will still love me. My parents aren't going to kick me out, stop feeding me.
Well, thank you so much for being here and sharing your wisdom with us. It was truly enjoyable, to talk with you.
Thank you.
On behalf of Velma and myself, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Heart of Silicon Valley. We hope you join us next time when we interview another fascinating personality with passion for their profession. Thank you again. Bye.
Hello, welcome to the Heart of Silicon Valley. This is a show where we talk about inspiring stories, people's passions, and also the grit and determination to be able to be successful in Silicon Valley. Here today is my co-host Jenny Lynn, and I'm Brian Cracker. And today we're going to be talking about affordable housing, and our guest today is Kevin Zwick. He's the CEO of the Housing Trust of Silicon Valley. So welcome, Kevin.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you both for having me.
I'm going to start with the first question. Tell us about yourself and how you became involved in affordable housing.
Sure, thanks. Well, I've been working in affordable housing for about 15 years. And prior to that, I started working in Oakland. The first time that I had a job out of college, I was working in downtown Oakland and working with a lot of people who were being gentrified and having to move out of Oakland. It was people who had, I was working for a nonprofit for people who had HIV and AIDS. And this was at the time when Oakland was booming. And the places where our clients would live weren't the most desirable places in town. But then all of a sudden, those became the desirable places in town. And we saw our clients and people who were living on really just really at risk of becoming homeless. When somebody became homeless, when somebody became evicted from their apartment, and if they were sick, if they had HIV, AIDS, other chronic illness, their health would fall dramatically. And that really brought attention to me that for a lot of people in society, their housing is the thing that's keeping them between life and death and between sickness and health. And I knew that was an issue that I wanted to start to understand and then figure out how I could work in that field and have impact in that. And 15 years later, I'm still doing affordable housing.
So what are some projects that you're working on currently for affordable housing, and also for, you were talking about AIDS patients and people who have illness and special needs?
Yeah, so the Housing Trust Silicon Valley, we are a community loan fund. We are based in San Jose. We've been around for 15 years, and the way that we impact affordable housing is really in two different ways. The first way is we make loans and grants to people and to create more affordable housing. So some people access our programs. If they want to buy their first home, they can come to us and we'll make a loan to pay for somebody's down payment to buy a home. Other programs we do is we make loans to developers who are going to create new apartment buildings and require and restrict those units for people who are low income or seniors or people with disabilities. And then we also work with groups that work with the homeless, and as they're moving into stable housing, one of the biggest obstacles for someone who's homeless, they might find an apartment, they might find a landlord who'll rent to them, they might even find a way to pay for that apartment, but then they have to come up with a security deposit. They have to come up with $1,500, $2,000, and that's just, it's impossible if you've been homeless for any period of time to maintain some savings. So they can come to the Housing Trust and we'll make a grant to them to pay for their home. So those are a variety of programs that we do at the Housing Trust.
So people are being squeezed out by high rents, like you talked about, in mortgages, and so and they're having to move out of the communities of Silicon Valley. So what can be done to keep them in affordable housing and keep affordable housing in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real issue, as you said. The rents are just skyrocketing, and you look nationally, people are really, it's outrageous what's happening in Silicon Valley. The average rent is now well over $2,500 a month. You have to have a monthly salary of $8,500 to afford that apartment. That's 5 times minimum wage. So people are really struggling, and as you go around Silicon Valley, you see how people are trying to get by. They're doubling up, they're tripling up in homes. We have one of the highest rates of overcrowding in California. And then the other thing you see people do is they pay more than half of their income to rent, which is one way to get by, but on the other hand, you're always one paycheck away, one challenge away from not being able to make your rent and be out on the street. So it is a challenge right now. What we need to do as a region is to build more housing. We need to build the solution to affordable housing, the solution to homelessness are homes, and we need to get people into more homes. Cities need to build more homes, and they need to make more of those homes permanently affordable for people at all different income levels.
And you just mentioned that cities play a really important role in building homes, right? And I know just recently, this week in San Francisco, there was a bond proposal that passed, okay? Proposition A, it offered $310 million towards affordable housing and keeping affordable housing in the city of San Francisco. So can you comment on that and tell us more about how maybe that could be another solution for Silicon Valley?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you mentioned that. There are a lot of crises around affordable housing, but in the past year, cities have really started to focus on solutions, and it gives me a lot of hope. People are really concerned about the issue. People want to see change. And what happened in the city of San Francisco was hopefully very instructive for what we can do here. It demonstrated that there was wide support for affordable housing. And I absolutely think that what they've done in San Francisco is a roadmap. It's a game plan for what we can do here in Silicon Valley to raise new monies for affordable housing. It was a really important measure. There hadn't been a approved ballot measure to support affordable housing in over 20 years in the Bay Area. And I think people feel like this is an issue that people might care about affordable housing, but not enough to act, not enough to pass a bond or a new fee or a new tax. And what happened in San Francisco shows that people understand the gravity of the issue and that they will support new funding measures for affordable housing. So that gives us a lot of work to do. People from the mayor of San Jose to people in Sunnyvale City Council and County Board of Supervisors, everybody's talking about how in 2016 can we put something on the ballot and pass a new measure and support affordable housing.
That's awesome.
And also with rent control for to kind of limit the amount that they can increase the rents, because sometimes they'll go 20 to 35% in one year. So
the rent increases. I mean, affordable housing is the solution ultimately for our affordable housing crisis, but that doesn't really help the people who today are living in housing that they can barely afford, or who have seen their rents increase on average over 12% a year every city here in Silicon Valley. So we have to do something to try to address what people are doing right now, how people are trying to get by. And there's a lot of people actually right now who have what are known as Section 8 certificates. These are certificates from the federal government passed out by the local housing authority to pay for affordable housing. And there's over 1,400 people in Santa Clara County right now with these vouchers who can't find a landlord who'll rent to them because rents are increasing so fast. So there's a lot that we can do to help protect renters. We can make sure that landlords don't discriminate against people if they can pay for their housing through Section 8 certificates. That's just as good as regular rent. We can make sure that there's tougher rules to prevent undue evictions. If someone just wants to kick out a tenant because they feel they can bring that unit to market, that doesn't lead to stable neighborhoods. So there's a lot we can do to protect people who are renting right now, because we want renters to have a stable place to live and to add to the stability of our neighborhoods.
For a renter that's experiencing that type of issue where they feel like their rents are being jacked up and they're coming they're getting an eviction notice, what would you recommend that they do? What would be your advice for someone in that position?
If a tenant feels that they're being unlawfully evicted, there are several organizations in Silicon Valley they could go to get assistance or legal advice. There's the Law Foundation of Silicon Valley, and the Fair Housing Law Project, and then a group called Project Sentinel as well. These are all organizations where you can go online and learn what are your rights as a renter, and if you feel like you've been discriminated against, or if you feel you've been unlawfully evicted, you can get assistance from them.
So now, also with the affordable housing, do they consider military veterans or say civil servants? Do they rank people, or is it just first come, first served? In
a lot of affordable housing that's built, and these are apartment buildings where the city invests in the apartments to make sure they're permanently affordable. They usually have a lottery system. There's so much demand for these apartments. There was just a new apartment building that was opened up in the city of Mountain View, and it had I think 45 apartments available, and they had several thousand people apply. So at that point, it's really a lottery system. But there are special programs that specifically help veterans. The state of California passed a bond a couple years ago to make more money available for affordable housing developers to build housing specifically for veterans. Veterans have some unique issues and unique needs. And face their own challenges in the rental market. So there's a new apartment building opening up in Menlo Park that's supported with federal, state, and local money that's specifically for veterans. The Housing Trust has invested in that as well. So there are some programs, but even veterans, you know, there's a few hundred veterans out there holding what are known as VASH vouchers, Veterans Assistance, that comes along with supportive housing, and they too can't find landlords who will rent to them because the rents are far outstripping what the federal government wants to pay for those vouchers. So, you know, it's a really challenging time. Despite that, I feel very optimistic by how much people care about the issue and want to have solutions.
Yeah, such a serious issue and so timely, but we have to end with something fun.
Yeah.
I have here my medal from last year's Turkey Trot, and your organization has long been affiliated with the Turkey Trot, the best foot race in San Jose. So tell us a little bit more about the Turkey Trot this year.
Oh,
what
wonderful.
Can we expect?
Well, the Applied Materials Silicon Valley Turkey Trot, we're going into our 11th year. That was from last year was the 10-year anniversary. This is it's a great fun event. It's Thanksgiving morning. You can come out and join 25,000 of your closest friends and neighbors in downtown San Jose. And there's a 5K race and a 10K race. And it's also, there's the U.S. Track and Fields have their championships, has a sanctioned race there too, so you can come out and see incredibly fast runners burn up the course. And the event this year hopes to raise $1 million for 5 charities. The Housing Trust Silicon Valley is one, the Second Harvest Food Bank of Santa Clara, the Food Bank in Santa Cruz, Healthier Kids Foundation, and the Health Trust are all beneficiaries. So please come to svturkeytrot.com and register.
And I know you'll be running.
I'll be running, and oftentimes my staff finds a very funny yet housing-related costume for me to wear. They haven't told me what I'm going to be wearing yet, but there's a costume contest too supported that you can enter and win prizes. So hopefully you can come out.
To see what you're going to wear this year. So is there anything, we're about to wrap, so is there anything that you want to let future people looking for affordable housing is to be able to inspire them, or you want to share with them? There's people out there.
Yeah, I mean, really what we have to do is we have to make room in our communities for people of all income levels, and from workers to seniors, and everybody needs more homes. So please join us.
Thank you, Kevin. This is a very serious topic, and I'm glad we could talk more about it and learn more about affordable housing. And thank you, Jenny, for being a co-host. You did great questions and about the Turkey Trot. So make sure you go to the Turkey Trot.
Yeah, see you all at the Turkey Trot.
And thank you to our viewers and our crew. This is the Heart of the Silicon Valley, and please tune in next time.